more. The Stamp Act told them to pay extra money to Britain every time they bought newspapers, pamphlets, dice, or playing cards. And every time a legal document like a will or a diploma was written, the colonists who owned it had to pay a fee to get it stamped and made official. All of this money went to Britain. More acts were passed. Americans were ordered to provide rooms and food for British troops sent to North America. Do we remember what that act was called? I'll give you a second. Anyone? Okay, the Quartering Act. And to pay for those rooms and food themselves, new taxes on glass, paper, paint, and tea were passed. More money flowed into Great Britain's pockets. The Americans began to argue about these tax laws in their general assemblies, meetings of all the colony leaders. Many of the leaders thought the Parliament should have asked the assemblies to approve the new taxes before making them law. In Virginia's assembly, a hot-tempered leader named Patrick Henry stood up and shouted, "The inhabitants of this colony are not bound to yield obedience to any law or ordinance, whatever designed to impose any taxation whatsoever upon them, other than the laws or ordinances of the General Assembly." Patrick Henry argued that according to British law, no British citizen could be forced to pay a tax unless his representative in Parliament agreed. But since there was no Americans in Parliament, the colony didn't have representatives. Any tax passed by Parliament was illegal because it forced the British citizens of America to pay a tax without representatives in Parliament agreeing. No taxation without representation. This became a cry of Americans all up and down the coast of North America. And boys and girls, we talked about that at length in class, about no taxation without representation and what that means. And so again, they were being forced to pay this debt from the French and Indian War, but they had nobody in Parliament sitting in Parliament representing them. And so they thought this is so unfair and this is not how government should be formed. Okay? The new king of Great Britain, George III, agreed to repeal or take away some of the taxes. George III was the grandson of George II, who had died suddenly of a stroke not long before the end of the 7 Years' War. George III came to the British throne ready to enjoy peacetime. He hadn't counted on all of this trouble with the colonies. George III's repeal of a few taxes didn't do any good because Parliament insisted that the tax on tea remain. Parliament wanted the Americans to know that the colonies were part of the Great Britain and that the government of Great Britain could pass whatever laws it pleased without asking the colonies for permission. The Americans were furious. The British soldiers stationed in the large port cities grew more and more unpopular. Okay, we're going to stop there. So, anyways, boys and girls, we went through a ton of events that led to this Revolutionary War. It didn't just happen overnight. There was a lot of cause and effect between the colonists, the patriots, and the British. And so what I'm going to ask you to do today in the history lesson is, typically we would have gone through this timeline together, but you all don't have this piece of paper, so I actually posted this answer key on the topics page. And so it goes through, like the first one is the French and Indian War, and then that was the cause. The effect was England had war debt, okay? So England had war debt, then we have the Stamp Act of 1765, okay? And it kind of goes through. A lot of these match your doodle page, not everything matches exactly. This one might give a little bit more detail. What I'm going to ask you to do is, with this, I do not have index cards. You may have index cards at home. I simply cut some blank pieces of paper, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first one and I'm going to put it on an index card or a piece of paper, okay? So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm just going to put French and Indian War. Okay, so I'm going to put all of these on here. I didn't put the date yet. You can, but to make this, we're going to play a game with this because you all know I love games. To make this more challenging, I'm not going to put the date because I think that might be too easy. But if you're like, yes, I need the date in order to put it in a timeline, that's fine. Just add the date there. So once I have all of my cards from here, I'm going to kind of put the answer key away. I'm going to line up all of my cards. Let's say I have all my cards lined up on the table. Then I'm going to try to put them in order, okay? I'm going to put them in order like I would a timeline. Now, here's the thing, boys and girls, is that we're going to mix them up. Once you get it done first, then you're going to mix them up. You're going to put on a timer, and you're going to see how fast you can go in order from start to finish, okay? And it has to be correct. And then you can email me your time if you want. This is totally optional, but we'll see who went the fastest to put the events in order, who can do it the fastest. I will give a shout out to you next week. So again, you're going to put all of these events on index cards or cut pieces of paper, and you're going to line them up and you're going to put them in order. And then you're going to time yourself. That's just for fun, okay? So if you have questions with that, let me know. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a review, and I would use this to go over. You can, even if you're like Mrs. Nyborg, this seems too advanced for me right away to do the index cards. I would just take a piece of paper out then and write this first, okay? Then I would switch it to index cards, okay? The other thing that we're going to be doing in history this week is, again, we're living history, boys and girls, right now. And so hopefully by now you've at least listened to one of my podcasts. I have 2 episodes right now, but I have a Google form that you're going to fill out, and you're going to interview someone in your family. So again, we're practicing social distancing. You're not going anywhere to do this. You can interview mom or dad. You can even call grandma and interview her on the phone. But there's questions on there that are very similar to the questions that you have found on my podcast. So I hope you have a great day. I hope that history is fun for you this week. You have a game, you have an interview. If you haven't listened to my podcast, go listen to it. And I hope you all have a great week. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm available. So, okay.